Good day, everybody. Welcome to 6 Minutes a Day, a journey to your higher self. My name is Justin. I am so glad that you're here. This is Strength, Yoga, and Freedom, the podcast or the YouTube channel. Whether you're listening, whether you're watching, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting this community and yourself. And don't forget, whether you're new or not, you can back up and listen to all of these previous trainings. This is day 20. So you can go back to 1 through 19 and listen or rewatch any of them. And another note I want to bring up to all of you is joining our email list, which we now have an email list, will get you information regarding what's coming out on the podcast and what will be coming out on the YouTube channel. And on the YouTube channel, when this program has concluded towards the end of the month, we will be offering free all levels yoga classes so that if you want to get on your mat at home and practice with me, you will have that opportunity. So if you want to know about those free yoga classes, be sure you get on the email list. The links are in the descriptions. So let's talk about what we talked about yesterday, reviewing that. We talked about yesterday what a narcissistic relationship could look like. And we reviewed a lot of different terms in the cycle of how a relationship could potentially work. And I will remind you that not all relationships work in the same cookie cutter cycle. So it's important to understand that the relationship that you're in is different from the relationship that someone else might be in. And so it's important to always seek your professional medical advice if you choose or see that you need that type of help. It's very valuable. We talked about passive-aggressive behavior and gaslighting in earlier episodes this week. So I invite you to rewatch those before getting into this video, because this video is part 2. So we discussed of narcissistic relationships, and we discussed those patterns, which include some gaslighting, some passive aggressive behavior. And now we are moving into what happens if you feel like you need to get out or have gotten out of a relationship. You feel like you can't manage this anymore. And what does that feel like when you feel like you can't manage it? Well, there's 2 words for that. When you feel like you have gotten so deep that it might not be the best course of action for you to get out of the relationship, or you're so scared that you feel if you do, it's going to be the end, and that is trauma bonding. So when you bond with someone in a healthy way, you bond with them over similar interests, support, love, empathy, kindness, trust, not from ego. When you bond with someone who could have narcissistic tendencies and behavior patterns, you are bonding through trauma because you feel as though you're not good enough. This is what trauma bonding looks like. You feel like you're not good enough. You feel like you're always walking on eggshells. You feel like you're disappointed all the time because the other person, the narcissist, may not show up to important personal events of yours. They may make your special day all about them, like birthdays. Like if it's a child's birthday and they're the parent, the narcissistic parent, it could be all about them. You feel in a trauma bonding that your happiness is now rooted in someone else. All of your happiness. When they have a bad day, you have a bad day. When they are going through something, you're going through something. Every single thing that happens, when they don't respond to a message or a phone call, you get all worked up. It affects your work, it affects your personal life, it affects everything in your life. I have seen this firsthand. I have been the person whose life has been affected by narcissists. Trust me, tons of narcissists in my life. When you notice that you have the empathy and the genuine heart and you're operating out of self-love and someone else is not, it can be very confronting. And I mentioned this at one of the earlier trainings this week. Some of this information gets confronting because you realize, oh my goodness, I could be dealing with this. And so when you are dealing with this, it's just a gentle reminder to give yourself grace because you're not crazy. You are operating out of love. You're not operating out of manipulation. You are being manipulated. So how do you manage all of this? How do you manage when you've been into a trauma, when you feel like you are in a trauma bond? Well, number 1 is to recognize that you could be trauma bonded. And if that is happening to you, you can always, and I always recommend this, seeking out professional advice. Seeing a therapist, seeing your doctor, whoever you need to talk to about it, seeking that out is very important. You can also seek out someone who you do have a healthy relationship with. Maybe it's a close friend. Maybe it's a family member who you have had a long withstanding history with, and there is always love and compassion and kindness and empathy in that relationship. You know you're safe. You can confide in them, because sometimes just hearing the fact that you are not crazy, that you are operating from that sense of love from someone else, hearing that from someone else can validate the feeling of, my goodness, it's not my fault. I'm just acting out of love and I'm being manipulated. That's another big step. If you are a parent and you have children and you find out or discover that your partner could have narcissistic tendencies, seeking out medical advice is very important, because a medical professional can help you mediate the interaction with your children. Let's talk about gray rocking and no contact as well. These are terms that are thrown out there a lot, and I want to bring some clarification to them. If you decide that your relationship with the narcissist cannot continue anymore, and you have to have some kind of contact with them, maybe they work with you, maybe they're a colleague of yours, that's where it's a lot, very common. Another one is in your family. So you might be at events and you have that relationship with someone in your family that's not healthy. Gray rock means you are providing no emotion to someone else. You are completely flat. You're respectful, you're kind, but you do not share personal information about yourself. You do not share how you feel or what you think about anything. It's just that's why it's called gray rock. It's kind of boring. The answers would be yes, no, thank you, goodbye, hello, just very flat. No contact is completely cutting someone off. If you feel like you have to go that route, then it's a complete cutoff. And by cutoff, I mean cutoff. Like nothing. No Facebook, no Instagram, no emails, no text messages, no phone calls, nothing. Zero. No contact, no going to the house, no them coming to your house. It's over. And no contact is different than the silent treatment. The silent treatment is used to punish someone, because if you're giving someone the silent treatment, you're not speaking to them because you feel like they did something wrong and it's affecting you, and so you temporarily stop talking to them to punish them. That is a form of mental abuse as well, not talking to someone. So that's different than no contact. No contact is about self-preservation. And no contact means the only time that you would ever actually speak to someone who you had to cut completely off is if they come directly into your line of vision. You may nod your head, maybe a small smirk, or just a hello, and you're on your way. Nothing else, because they're still a human, and because we do not act out of revenge when we are practicing yoga. We act out of self-love. So no contact could be the last resort. And I'm here to tell you something. It can be the most effective. Not because I want their behavior to change, or I'm going to work on changing their behavior, but because I don't want to have that behavior around me. It's about me, not about the other person. You may also encounter flying monkeys. Flying monkeys are people that you and the narcissist know they cross the relationship line. So you both know these people, and this can happen at work or in families. And when you're talking about flying monkeys, the narcissist can go around and act with that smear campaign, letting everybody know all the horrible things that you've done, all those things that you've said in confidence, all of those personal, intimate moments you've shared with the narcissist go now out into the others, so that the others, the flying monkeys, can report back to the narcissist on what you're doing, especially if you've gone no contact. I've had this experience in my life a lot, where a former narcissistic abuser of mine has attempted to go to other people in my life and in their life that we kind of shared, these people, and tried to either figure out what I'm doing, talking about what they think I think, and what it does is it triggers the behavior, it triggers those feelings and those behaviors of self-doubt all over again. So you may also have to remove flying monkeys temporarily from your life if they're still engaging with the narcissist. I have a rule about that. If you're in my life and you still engage with a narcissist that has abused me in some way, the communication gets changed, because you do not want to get triggered again and again and again and again and again and again. As you grow and you start to notice patterns a little easier, you may find, because of this, the flying monkeys and on and so forth, your circle of friends, family, relationships starts to change. And one day you realize that because you understand these terms and what potentially the behavior of narcissists look like in your life and the abuse that has happened, you will then start to cleanse all the people around you and wind up with only those who are empathetic, kind, caring, and true, working out of self-love. And everybody else has to be off into the no contact or gray rock zone, because they cannot affect your happiness. They cannot affect your progress. You're trying to be a happier person. You're trying to be healthy. You're trying to find fulfillment in your life. If you engage in any behavior that is directly or indirectly related to the narcissist through someone else, it will stunt your ability to move forward. That's just how it is. It's scary. It's very scary. But in the end, it's effective to really change your circle around you. One last thing I want to tell you about narcissistic relationships. It is not your fault if you're in one. You will heal from it, and you will be able to set boundaries that will allow you to move into a higher sense of self. All of this information in the past 2 days is very surface level. It's very general. There's so much more in depth that on the podcast version, we will go into more about on some of these terms, but I really want to remind all of you that you are worth it. You are worth saving yourself the aggravation of locking into a trauma bond. If you feel something doesn't seem right in a relationship, it probably isn't right. Probably isn't right. But today and over the next 2 days, where we are not doing training until Monday, take some time for yourself. Take some time to smile, to be happy, to enjoy yourself, because you deserve it. And when we move into next week, the second half of dealing with other people, the last 5 days of dealing with other people before we put it all together, we will continue to talk about ways we can recognize behavior patterns. And remember, we're not trying to change someone else's behavior pattern. That's not what we're doing. We are trying to work on ourselves and how we handle it. Much love to all of you. Thank you for being here and supporting us. And I will see you in our next training.